Good morning, it's Valerie. I've been up since 6 a.m. working, and I was quite aware in this last week of reading on social media some really difficult things that my peers are going through. Their peers at, I think, three different levels. Many of them are mums, many of them are mental health workers, and many of them are small business owners. And I've been aware of wanting to reach out and respond to every single post that I have seen, and really not having the chance to because of small spaces. Myself being a small business owner, a mental health worker, and a parent, not being able to do that. So I wanted, therefore, to come on and speak these words as a way of sharing authentically what the journey really is like. Maybe as a sense of rallying with my peers, but also maybe as an advocacy piece to say that if you know of a small business owner, particularly a mum, then this is my story. I didn't come into being a small business owner out of choice or out of ambition. It probably is part of a personality thing. When I was a kid in primary school, the teacher set me up to basically just set up a play shop. That was my job, infants type, pretty like maybe year one. And set up a shop and just have a play area. And I actually converted it to a business. I just Nobody taught me how to do it, nobody told me what to do. What I actually did was I took all my old stationery and cut it up, like the erasers, cut it up and cleaned it, and the pencils, make it shiny and sharp. And I started to sell them at the shop. Not sure if I was supposed to do it. And I have this vivid memory of, I'm a kid, there's this thing that I'm doing, feeling completely energized that I was creating something out of nothing. Probably at the time I had a hobby, and I don't know, maybe I honestly can't remember. That's an interesting thing. It wasn't about the money. I don't remember what I did with the money. I don't know what it was about the money. It was just the sheer joy of creating something out of nothing, interacting with people and giving them something. Because, I don't know, I made the erasers, cut up erasers look pretty good, I suppose. And it was a hit. The shop was a hit. It probably is a personality thing. I didn't pay much attention to it. I'm also driven by a sense of loyalty. And I was the type of employee that once I sign up with you, I am your soldier. I will go into the trenches as long as I trust you, and I sign, you are who you say you are. And being profoundly disappointed in my early jobs. Now, I don't blame anyone for that. It's a journey of discovering who you are. Being disappointed that what I signed up for didn't really eventuate, and I got caught up, producing things that I didn't really think would make a lasting impact on anyone's lives. Going into business for me was not a choice. It actually came out of a series of unavoidable circumstances. Before I go into that, let me talk to you about being a psychologist. The hardest thing about being a psychologist is really not hearing other people's stories and their problems. It's actually every day being faced with the reality that we actually really live in an unjust, unfair, broken world. And every story that you hear will reinforce that sense that, wow, bad stuff really does happen to some really great people. There's a profound sadness about that. And as you grow in your career as a psychologist, you grow in your sense of love and affection and affinity for the things that you see in your clients, and for the burden that you see of a world that can be so hard. And that's where things like compassion fatigue come in, or vicarious trauma for the therapist. It's not because we hear difficult stories and it's too much for us. It's that compounding reality that this is a really difficult world. So many of us will then look for a hopeful space, a space where we can do early prevention, where we can do education, where we can get in early enough, hoping that every time we do this, the world shifts on its axis a little bit towards a more positive, hopeful space, right? So as a business owner, I was on my journey of being a psychologist, loving being a psychologist. I really had public health values as well, and was looking for a place that I could be part of a multidisciplinary team. My appreciation of being a part of a multidisciplinary team actually comes from a genuine value of humility. When I worked in the hospitals, I was impacted by how my different colleagues of different disciplines were able to look into a situation so differently and so refreshingly and contribute so effectively from where they were standing. And so I really wanted to be a part of a multidisciplinary team. That desire was frustrated because I couldn't get in at the time. My first venture into business was actually from a space of brokenness. I was working in a forensic situation in another country. I had a pregnancy that didn't eventuate. I had a miscarriage, and I had actually resigned from my job. Actually, I can't remember why I resigned early. I don't know. I had 2 other children, so maybe I just thought that it would be too hard to go through a pregnancy. I often have difficult pregnancies as well as work, maybe. Can't remember. Anyway, I resigned from that job. And I resigned from it, and then I had a miscarriage, and then came this big crisis of what do I do now? It wasn't so much about the money. It was really about this emptiness. I'm not going to be a mum. Who am I? What am I going to do? And perhaps from that space came that entrepreneurial spirit. I wouldn't say that that's a business owner spirit. It was just creating something out of nothing, seeing where I could add value. And I really loved working in forensics, particularly in the juvenile space. And at the time, I was in Singapore. And one of the things that really burdened me was, excuse me, seeing young people in the justice system. And I had a theory that many of them probably had learning difficulties, probably had things like ADHD, undiagnosed, unpicked up, and was then just swept into some really difficult circumstances and were now in the justice system. And so out of that, and looking to, I guess, recreate a sense of meaning and purpose for the loss that I had experienced. And of course, these are children. So for me, it just seemed like a natural thing of, well, I couldn't help that one child. I can go and help these many children. Created a space where I just went into the prisons and I did cognitive assessments, basically. I think almost 100 of them during that time. Excuse me. And then, funnily enough, even at that point, there were just too many assessments to do. I loved that job. I loved that space. I just loved that. Anyway, and so I got another friend to come and do that with me, right? And here we are now. We're 2 people. I've got a contract with this other person, and we're just heading into a space of, this hypothesis that perhaps many of them, their needs just hasn't been picked up. And of course, from that space will come the iconic kids that you will always remember. I can still see this one. Big kid, 15, but big, angry eyes, in there for violence, in there for, having had a weapon and things like that. And I was not afraid. Now, this surprised me. I'm never afraid with these kids, right? And I just remembered he's angry. He's sitting there. He's looking at me, and the guard is like outside because who knows what could happen, right? And we go through this cognitive assessment, and I'm starting to realize that this kid's putting up a front. He's not actually able to get through a number of these tasks. I betcha he has a learning difficulty. And so at the end, when I score it, I just focus on one subtest, and lo and behold, find that in a non-verbal subtest, he was in the gifted range, right? And so it goes, and articulated that in a report, went back to the kid, fed back to him, had a couple of sessions with him to find out the story, and yes, of course, true enough. Due to some learning difficulties and also a very difficult childhood, he'd landed up in the justice system, and making a pathway for that kid. I don't know what happened, but, there was a pathway anyway for this kid while he was in the system to be able to do something. And that's like my first business, right? That was my first business. Now, that could have gone on. Life happens, however. We came back to Australia for various reasons. And again, I'm going to the employment pathway, looking to get a job. This doesn't eventuate. I'm at that time the main income, the main income person. Not because by choice, really, in terms of where the family was at. And I remember saying this line, desperation breeds greatness. That was just my way of encouraging myself to say desperation breeds greatness, because it's really hard to get a job. I know we need this much money. My husband wasn't worried, and really I needn't have been worried as well, but I felt that need as a mother with young kids to make something happen. And so I coined this phrase, desperation breeds greatness, desperation breeds greatness. I think that was my way of saying, don't be afraid of the situation, innovate. What is the best that you can bring to this situation? I innovate. I can make something out of nothing. I've done it before. Let's give this a go. So I entered private practice with someone else, and fantastic opportunity. I loved that work environment, and we would have stayed there wholeheartedly if it wasn't for sort of financial needs increasing, and looking at you can only work so many days in someone else's private practice. Like, I can't be working 7 days to earn that income. Let's see if I can do something else on the side, right? Stay here, do something else. Had a really great conversation with the person I was working for. They were very supportive, and so here we are. Now, as it happens, step into that space, and of course, very quickly get full. And I remember now being in this quandary. I wanted to be in private practice so I could, not just for income, but for serving people. But now I'm in this quandary because I remember just sitting in the private practice, the second space that I was in, with anxiety now. Because every time there'd be a message or a number prop up, the first thing that I would think to myself is, one of my kids is sick. I'm going to have to go get them. This means canceling clients, disappointing clients. But then I've got this tension. I either cancel my clients and disappoint them, or not show up for my kids. What am I going to do? And the anxiety that just created in me, to the point of actually like feeling like nauseous, right? And it was the days too where at that point in time I was on my own in Australia while my husband was overseas finishing up his work before he would join us. And these cold, dark nights in a small car, because we didn't have a lot of money, we couldn't afford a car, a really tiny Toyota Echo, driving late to pick up my children, after a full day of private practice, and the kids being the last ones at, what's the thing called, the last ones, and their anxiety because they were only little, they were the last ones, and their fear that what if I forgot them, right? And this juggling of this tension and this escalating clash of I want to be there for kids, I want to be there for clients, I've got to make this work, we've got to make this work. How do I do this? And one conversation, one pivotal conversation, she was another therapist where I had, started my second thing. And she was an older lady who, had her kids, adult kids. And then she said, look, why don't you try this? Why don't you actually try giving yourself the morning off and then just doing back-to-back clients in the afternoon? She said, this way, you have the opportunity to spend some time with your children and tick a psychological box, but also you've got some time to assess, because most times if kids are kind of going to get sick, it'll be before recess or, before lunch. And if they're sick after lunch, you might as well just let them finish school and then pick them up, right? But it's the morning that's and I'm like, light bulb moment, can I do this? She says, yeah, of course you can. You can do whatever you want. That's how I used to do it. And I made that change, and it was groundbreaking for me, right? I felt so liberated, which then led me to this thought that, hey, if I can do this, I wonder if I could actually minimize, how long I was working. Because those days, I'd drop them off at school and then work all the way till, the end of oosh, basically, right? So they're like 8, 12-hour days. And then I had this light bulb moment. I thought, if I can do this, what if I could do something else? What if I only worked 2 afternoons and then I worked 2 mornings, but I worked the 2 mornings where I have a really frank conversation with a friend to say, in those 2 mornings, if the kids are sick, can you be the emergency contact person? And so having a conversation to find out who those people could be, had them as my and again, instant relief, right? So now I'm really only juggling the kids' anxiety and my, sort of little car driving at night to get them twice. And in the morning, I know when I'm working, I've got this backup plan, right? So here we go. So we go on. This is a happy picture for a long time until things didn't quite work out in that second space that I was in, because I discovered just naturally from managing a second business, if you like, that I really loved our website. I'm not going to say website design, but discovered that I loved data analysis. It came from my years of being in consulting, where I was the little number cruncher. Those are the days before we had apps and smartphones and things like that. You did it old school. They were like paper surveys that would come, that I had to create Excel number crunches and things of. And discovered that I really loved data analysis, and discovered that I loved sitting in front of Google Trends and keywords and search engine optimization data. I just loved it. I don't know, it's just this nerdy thing that I discovered. And so, quite frankly, once I discovered it, I went and did it, and that created some tension with where I am. I completely understand, but it was no longer tenable for us to stay together, and we had to have that frank conversation of saying, I think we've outgrown each other. I need to now go and do my own thing, right? So again, business was not my choice. I'm now on my own. So I have to go and oh, I've got to show you this book. So here's this book, right? I'm now on my own. Our family situation hasn't changed that much, although maybe by that time my husband was working. He'd come over and things like that, right? But here it goes. I've got now a new worry list, okay? I'm terrified of being on my own. And I made this running list. I've since actually stopped writing in this running list because it's moved to such a different space now. Let me read you what my worry list was as I moved into my new space. But first of all, above my worry list, I write a little inspo message to myself. Blue Ocean. There's a book called Blue Ocean. Valerie, create value create new spaces. So here we go. Here's my worry. I'm going to have to buy furniture for my practice. I've never done that before. Oh my gosh, it's so expensive. My solution at that point, I jumped onto Gumtree. We hired a ute and we are hauling furniture ourselves upstairs to EFTPOS machine. Oh, that's so scary. I go and visit the bank. He laughs at me pretty much when he hears what my income is and says, you don't need an EFTPOS machine. What are you going to do with an EFTPOS machine? Leave that place completely devastated, thinking, oh my gosh, what am I thinking? So EFTPOS machine, I have to get an EFTPOS machine. This is going to be so hard. I'm going to have to write letters to doctors to tell them I exist. Oh my goodness, I'm petrified of doctors. Oh, they're so busy. I don't want to bug them. All right, and then I'm going, I've got to figure out the accounting. People are telling me the ATO are going to come out and get me if I don't set this up properly. Oh my goodness. Advertising. The psychology board is so strict. I can't say this, I can't do this. So, there's this stuff. Commercial leases. What is that? Do I now need a lawyer? Oh my gosh, I can't talk to doctors now. I have to talk to lawyers. And it goes on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Right? It's like, blah. And so this is like my running, this is the book where it's even got my original website content, like, what am I going to say on a website? I've never done that before, and so I write it all down like a story. So, you have all this stuff. And now, on top of your clinical know-how, now you've got another bunch of things that you realize you don't know, but you need to know in order to make this happen. And here's the thing, it changes all the time. You get all these emails that are telling you about your fair work, work health, safety, work cover responsibilities, and it's growing and growing and growing. Okay? So you need more people. Now you need more people. And then you worry, how am I going to afford more people? Because everything that I've done for myself, I now have to do for someone else. I don't know how to do this. What if we hate each other? What if it lands up that we literally can't stand one another and we have a fight and it goes on and on and on and on, to the point now where not only are you worrying and thinking about how am I going to make the income now to not just pay the bills for my family, but to pay the bills for the practice, for the business. How am I actually going to do my clinical work with the little time that I have? And how am I actually going to provide for the people I've brought on and give them the time? So, now you don't just have small kids. Now you've got an even bigger kid called a business. And the nights that you stay up, I can't count them. The nights that I've stayed up. So this was probably pre-2018, the years from 2015 to 2017, worrying. Not a natural worrier, but commitment is a big value for me. Problem solving is probably a strength for me. And when I've got people who are now working with me, I feel an immense commitment to them to make it happen. And there are some things you just can't problem solve on your own, and so you stay up and you try to grab whatever you can do. I remember, what I did in this moment of desperation when I'm having sleepless nights. I bought a laser printer, literally. I bought a laser printer, and I started to churn out these marketing things. And I got my kids, and we are doing letterbox drops, and they're like, Mom, it's so hot. I don't know, we got to keep doing this. How many of these things do you actually look at? Money wasted, time wasted. But I just felt like it's the one thing I can do. I can get a laser printer, I can print out this marketing material, and I can go drop it off at people's letterboxes, okay? And the catch-22 of being a business owner is you're going to need more people to help you. And yet when you need more people to help you, you need more money to pay people. And let me tell you that as a psychologist, the profit margin is pretty low, pretty low. I don't mind telling you the statistic. It's probably about 4% if you're lucky, and it probably gets up to 8 to 10% if you're successful, right? But the profit margin is really low. Why? Because our biggest resource are our human resources, and so therefore a large proportion of the finances goes towards it. Now, I'm not paying myself a salary at this time, right? So it becomes like the big question on the family table. Why are you expending so much energy when you're not actually earning an income? You might as well just go work for someone else. But when you're a mother, the catch-22 of working for someone else is that you have less flexibility, right? You can't, it's really hard to take leave, sick leave, and your hours are fixed. And your holidays are limited in terms of, when you can take holidays. So there's always this trade-off, yeah? And so you keep going. And until the point, 2017, when it came to this point, end of 2017 into 2018, where you really just have to ask yourself, what am I doing? And I would go for walks with my best friend, and she would say to me, Valerie, you have been saying this for the longest time. You have actually been saying that the private practice is really hard work. It brings you no joy. It's eating more out of you than it's giving to you. And on one of these walks, after we'd finished walking and I continued, I really had to face myself with that question: why am I doing this? What is this about, right? Because I've got to figure this out. I can't keep pedaling like this with no sense of reason for why I'm doing it or no purpose for it. And so at the end of 2017, I make a phone call to someone and I say to her, because I'd known her since 2015, and I said to her, at that point in time, I was just wanting to do a small thing with her. Maybe it was 90 days of just really trying to clarify, should I still keep doing this or should I give up, right? 90 days of doing that. And then sitting at a cafe thinking to myself, return to the why. Pick up your book and go and read Why You Became a Psychologist. Go and read it, okay? Because being a psychologist for me was not an easy path. I changed degrees many times and I had to justify to a number of people why I was not pursuing music, why I was not pursuing law, why I was wasting my ATAR. Was it ATAR at the time? TER at the time to do psychology, which at the time, I can't remember, but it was not very high. I got a TER of 97.6 when I did the HSC. Probably the psychology at that point was 80. It was not an easy path to be a psychologist for me and to stay the course. And I have to return to my wife. So I'm like looking, always going back. Okay. I left organizational psychology, which had the most promising career for me. Everybody understood, everybody supported that because I believed that human beings were getting shredded in the system, and I really wanted to be able to work with the human being to help them to reach wholeness and wellness. I didn't want to see children perpetuate this legacy of actually feeling like they can't help themselves. So my why for being a psychologist and forsaking a larger income and career path that made sense to other people was because of my values. So return to the values. The private practice now has become a beast beyond me. And part of that why was I actually wanted to bring people in, psychologists in, to give them the opportunity to share my values and then to go out and do the same. So it's the ripple effect. Is this still worth doing? Is this still worth doing? And sitting at that cafe and saying to myself, if I didn't do this, what else would I be doing? Legit, what would I do? Valerie, what would you do? Would you teach music? Would you go back to the corporate world? No, thank you. Oh my gosh, I think my soul would just die if I went back to the corporate In fact, I think at the time there probably were people who were asking me, why don't you just come back? I think one of the old companies I used to work for, like, I can't do that. I just cannot do that. Retrain? Well, as what? Nothing else gives me a sense of meaning other than this. Okay, no. The why still exists. The what and the how is doing my head in. And at that conversation, I asked this person who's a business coach, I said, should I do the 90 days or should I just jump in and do 12 months with you? And, this person basically said, I think you should do the 12 months, right? And I write this letter to myself as I'm sitting in this cafe, and because basically I'd left it to the last minute, I had to make a decision which way I was going to go. I'm sitting at the cafe. I go and get a card to myself because I know that I'm going to have to read this over and over again to remind myself. And it starts with the words, you're sitting down at a cafe and you're about to make the most terrifying decision of your life, and you have no idea which way this is going to go. You have no idea which way this is going to go. But you are making a choice to do something different, and you have got to do that. You cannot keep going like this. And there is a great possibility that if you do this, you won't be in this same space in 12 months' time. So I sign on. I go into this journey with a business coach for 12 months. She teaches me a bunch of things. I come into a community of people that I realize were going through the same thing as me, figure out that they've all got similar issues, and we're in this together, and we're brainstorming and think tanking and coming up. And in the process, I grow. One of the great joys for me is we've been doing a recruitment blitz in our practice, and I've not primed or prompted anybody to say any of these things, but consistently what seems to come out from our team is that the Center for Effective Living is an agent of change. We embody growth and transformation. And I think what I've discovered in that process is my own growth and transformation. The joy that I have of not hustling for money to pay other people, but the joy of seeing them grow. The joy of having that multidisciplinary team that I hungered for when I was looking for it in the public health, but seeing them come together, and the value of humility, respect, and generosity being played out through the whole practice, just lifts my vision to a place where, funnily enough, I say, this is the kind of place I would want my kids to work in. This is totally what I would want my children to have as their future, to be in an environment where people are collegial and generous and things like that. So we come then to the end of 2018, and the funny thing about business is organic growth happens because of all the things, but you've got to make decisions. Growing a team of 2 to growing a team of 7 to growing a team of, last night it occurred to me that I think plus our administrative support, we're now 12. So in terms of the levels of a private practice, I'm very happy to share with you. It's commonly held that there are 5 levels of private practice. The Center for Effective Living is a level 4, really into a level 5, very close to level 5 practice. So you get scared for things at a different level now. You now are actually really worried that someone's going to have an accident in your workplace. You worry about whether or not you're going to have enough money to pay for taxes. You worry about all kinds of new things. And then I can see that my executive assistant Kathy is here, and then you find someone really good at that stuff like Kathy. And then you worry that you're going to break her because there's so much stuff that you're throwing at her, because honestly, you know that you're incompetent to manage any of this. And then you think, oh my gosh, what's her work like? This is all my stuff, which I don't like doing. My entire vomit list is now on her plate. I really hope my vomit is her dance of joy list. And I think it is. Kathy, is it your dance of joy list? See, more things to worry about, right? Okay, so I'm at this point now, I think maybe 2019, right? And you got to make this decision, and now your family has to make this decision with you. And I read a book called The E-Myth. A really good friend of mine recommended, Valerie, read the book E-Myth, right? And the E-Myth is a lovely story of the journey of someone who's really good at making pies, who before she knew it had a business of making pies, and this is not what she signed up for, right? And now your family is implicated because the way that you do work is so weird. It does not fit with everybody else's work schedules. You're up at 6 o'clock doing weird social media type stuff. You know, you're on more social media platforms than your teenagers are. There's no such thing as, the regular work day, and now your family is looking at you and thinking, this is really weird. What are you doing? Isn't it much better for you to just have a job? Not that I'm saying that that's what they're thinking, but that's like the tension. And you know what's one of the hardest things now? Limited shared empathy. There's very few people in your world around you, your family included, and your friends, who actually really understand or get what you're doing and why you're doing what you do. Very few. And you're constantly asking yourself, is this the right thing? Is there a better way? Should I give it up? Maybe this is, I've got it all wrong again, because now, the funny thing about business growth is you don't make conscious decisions and say, team of 7, let's go to 12. No, it is a beast that snowballs. In order to sustain a team of 7, you need to have a team of 12. Don't ask me to explain that. I could, but it'd be a whole nother video. You can't. In business, it's really either or. You either on your own, self-employed doing a job, or once you hit, you grow it, you don't stop it. You only scale down to sell or scale down to wind down. You just can't, right? You can't. And so now you're sitting in this space where you're thinking, wow, I've got to make this decision. Do we keep going? And nobody's going to understand, right? And you try. You schedule all this stuff. You have family meetings, you have, dates with your husband, and you try, and then you come to this blinding realization that's not really fair. They don't have to understand. Why force them to understand? Because you know what? Then the veil is open to them, and now they've got to live with the stress and anxiety of this is the dice that you roll every single day in business. Every single day. Where cash flow and credit and good credit and bad credit is just a part of life. It's just a part of life. You roll bigger risks. You take bigger steps. You launch into greater paths. And do they really need to share that? Not really. Wow, this is a long life. I hope you've enjoyed it so far if you've stayed with me. And so here's what I said that this was part of my wanting to share with my peers and say, you're not alone. Here's what I actually really want to say. It's okay to make a decision either way. Every step of the way is an opportunity to evaluate. It's okay. You can evaluate in either direction. If you want to press pause, if you want to press stop, it's all right. There's no shame. But if you want to press play, and I'm using someone else's thing now, sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. But anyways, if you want to press play and you want to keep going because it's part of the why, it's part of the meaning, then don't lose yourself, don't lose your relationships, don't lose yourself in the process. That is not worth it. And the mechanics that you use to get you going when you were a level 1 or you were working for someone or working just on your own is vastly different from the mechanics that are required to support a business. Vastly. It's a different game, different mindset required, different kind of grace and compassion you need for yourself, different kind of space and different kind of way of working so that you don't get caught up in the gears and shred yourself in the process. That's the space that's worth thinking about, getting help with, getting support, getting input, getting feedback. That space is worth it. Don't stay in the machine where the gears are grinding and shredding you at the same time. That's pretty much all I had to say. Have a great day.